depending on how fast it goes.
Yeah, and then that means also if you use quite some gas for the glass, you need, like, let's say with the conflict in Ukraine can also impact the price of the solar module. But in another way, we clearly see that now people are also looking more in electric vehicle and heating by maybe heat pump and stuff like this. So do you see also an evolution on this direction for the solar panel, like a strong acceleration because of the conflict in Ukraine, or it's still
I think all the companies that are making glass today, they have on their roadmap to make it more CO2 friendly. And so basically they not only work on reducing the energy you need to produce the glass, but also to recycle the glass. So they basically try to recover like glass cullets that they can basically remelt, because that's going to use less energy than melting or basically making glass from silicon dioxide. And so this is one way to do it. And then another way to reduce the energy consumption is to go towards thinner and thinner glass, because the amount of energy you need to make that glass is less. So that's a very big trend that we see also in the PV industry, is glass thickness has been reducing over time. And today in the latest product, we are below, 2 millimeter thick, or even sometimes below 2 millimeter thick. And it's the same in the automotive industry. They basically a very strong incentive to reduce the glass thickness, because it basically reduces the CO2 footprint, and it also reduces the weight, and that improves the consumption of the car. So a lot of the novel concept also for the solar car, like I can cite like the startup like Lightyear in the Netherlands, or like Sonomotor in Munich. They really work on new concepts that use very thin glass. So or no glass.
Yeah, so like you think even they could use a glass as thin as on a mobile phone or computer? And,
yeah, the challenge with this is that you have different ways of making glass. So the standard PV panel is called tempered glass. So it's basically you melt the glass on a float line, and then after you cut it to the right size, and then you apply a coating with anti-reflective coating. It's the same as what you have on your sunglasses. And then you basically do a tempering step. So you bake the glass at around 600 degrees, and then you cool it quite quickly. That creates stress on the outside of the glass, and that makes it more resistant to impact. So this is very important for PV module for hail. So if you have hail, like a storm, that helps with the durability of the PV module. And then for car, it's very important for all the safety aspects. So if you have a stone that comes out of your car, you don't want it to go through the windshield and potentially harm the passenger. So typically in the car, all the side windows are what we call tempered glass. They're just this kind of glass that when it's better impact resistant, and if it breaks in really a lot of tiny pieces, so that it doesn't injure the people. They have less risk of cutting themselves. And then the windshield is called laminated glass. So it's just some special glass with a plastic in between, so that if it breaks, it stays together. And then you have less chance of having your head injury or other type of injury. And so these standard processes are quite common in both the automotive industry and the PV industry. And then if you go thinner than 2 millimeter, then it gets quite difficult to apply this kind of compressive stress on the outside of the glass. And so the other way that is used in cell phones is called chemical tempering. So what they do is they just basically put the soda lime glass, basically contains a little bit of sodium in the glass, in a chemical bath that contains potassium. Is the atoms of potassium are a little bit bigger than the one of sodium. And basically the potassium goes into the glass at the surface and replaces the sodium locally. And that makes stress. So that's called chemically tempered glass. But the process to exchange the atoms, it takes quite a bit of time. So the per square meter it's quite expensive, this type of glass. And that's also why it's only used in laptops, in cell phones, or inside, let's say, interior design, like your the kind of like display in your car. This is typically this type of glass, which is like 0.2 millimeter or 0.5 millimeter thick.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I saw some like even foil of glass, meaning like you have like 0.1 micron millimeters, so like 100 micron glass. That it's look like really like a paper foil, but it's transparent and it can bend like this. It's really amazing, and yeah.
Yeah, so I think the question then it becomes more to the customer. What do you like to have? Do you prefer to have like a nice finish with glass, which is often shiny, and also quite good against scratch resistance and also against moisture ingress, because the glass is very good at blocking all those things. Then you have the cost aspect of it. Or do you prefer more like a matte finish, which you can get with a polymer, like a plastic barrier film? So these are used a lot in the packaging industry to prevent like let's say your food to rot. And so the polymer film is basically used to block moisture and also UV light and things like that. And this is the similar technology that can be used in PV panel. And this is lighter weight than glass and also potentially cheaper than this chemically tempered glass. But then you have this matte finish and probably issues also with scratch resistance. So again, it depends on what companies prefer and what the customer prefer. I think we will end up seeing both types of products. So.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, depending also where on the car, maybe on the like a bumper for sure they are mostly on plastics, but as soon you have big surface, I know that automotive industry are really sensitive on aspect and aestheticism. So we'll see where we can implement this plastic part, but for sure it's a very good challenge. So don't know if there are questions from the audience. I don't think we have some. So yeah.
Maybe I had the question for you. Like we talked a lot about car. I was wondering how you see beyond the car, let's say in a van or in a truck, like.
Yeah, for me, I think it's clearly a big trend, the truck and the van, because also you have larger surface. Usually the surface are flatter, so and then here you can maybe the aestheticism is not as difficult as for yes, cars. So yeah, my feeling is that first big market will be this truck, and especially a refrigerated truck. It's really well aligned with that. And yeah, I think we see a lot of company going this direction, especially also electric small electric vehicle, like more utilitarian. They don't drive a long distance, like they just go inside the city. So after 100, 150 kilometers, they can charge back. So clearly that is, we can see already FedEx or DHL that they already invest in electric vehicle and adding like this lightweight solar panel glue on the roof can be a quick and cheap approach. That's my feeling.
Yeah, so that's also something we see at IMEC, and we're also actively working on this. So especially making this composite panel, like sandwich panel, because once you get rid of the glass, then the challenge is to make it still rigid enough and also able to withstand impacts like from the hill. It's not like you can drive around the hill. I mean, you still have to be able to withstand that. And so that's where we see a lot of like research being done on the composition of the panel, and then how to basically blend it or attach it to the truck, or even basically put it inside the manufacturing process. So a lot of these refrigerated truck today, they have this very large panel, like steel panel with their insulated foam in between, and they make it in one piece, and then it's basically the side panel, the top panel, and their other side panel, and they attach it on the chassis, and basically the truck is done all in one, those big piece. And so the question is, how can you integrate the PV module making during basically the panel making?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is it better to integrate in the fabrication process or more at the end, like an add-ons that you can choose with or without? Let's say you have a standard way of fabrication, because that's true. I mean, and then also after about regulation is that I agree to attach, like do some scratch tape or gluing some extra parts on the truck, but for sure it's quite interesting, and when as soon you have electric vehicle, I mean it's directly makes sense to have PV, because it's nearly for free if you think about the price of a truck and the price of square meter of solar panel. Yeah,
I think one challenge I see is that the whole economics of it are also depending on their battery cost. So it's the same a bit in a solar car and a solar truck. You can still add a battery, and if the cost of the battery is extremely cheap, say in €100 per kilowatt hour or even €80 per kilowatt hour, then that might be more cost efficient than to add solar panel. It doesn't solve the fact that you still have where does the electricity come from to recharge your battery, and that you have losses when you charge and discharge. But still, I think we have to be aware that that's kind of the main competition. Yeah.
But yeah, what I see that when everyone will have this electric vehicle, like everyone will plug in at 6 p.m., then I think will be a big trouble on the grid. So my feeling is that still the solar plays on the vehicle, and here maybe I speak more on truck, but also on electrical car. Then it's maybe postpone you a bit charging time, and that can also help. But I'm sure like you need to have a smart approach for the grid. If not, it will not.
Yeah, if everyone comes at 7 p.m. when it's dark to charge their car, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
I was wondering also, maybe on the color integration, do you think like, people like to buy a car with a white color or red color or black color? Do you think that can be a challenge for the solar panel? Like, do we need to paint them in a certain color?
Yeah, I think now for the roof of the car, most of the roof are black, I mean, for aesthetic approach. But yeah, on the rest of the body, for sure here, I think the color are needed. And also, even on the roof, usually you have these solar cells that are looking a bit bluish on a dark or very black background, and sometimes it will be good to have maybe a more homogeneous color, and adding some small pigment could help this doing that. I see Nabi that raised his hand.
Yes. Yes, I want to take the last chance to ask one question, if you don't mind.
Please.
Can we see, for instance, because today to apply and have a car that can run fully for or what we need during our transportation for the day before we can come back to the house and charge it again, or the sun also, or the sun, can we see in using the solar panel on the car, for instance, the EVs, it will increase the range. It will increase the range and reduce the number of charges. But can we transfer also that, and looking into another concept of cars is rather to have electrical car or thermal car, to have the same system that we have in the thermal car that uses the brake to charge the batteries. Okay, and make it a hybrid like that by reverse of the motion of the car when we brake to charge the batteries, and use like that. We can have maybe extended charge. Today I think that the charge is about maybe to run between 30 to 50 kilometers, if my memory is correct. So if we can have it maybe over 100 kilometers like that, and especially for small distances on the taxis or the people mainly inside the city.
Yeah, I think braking generation, regeneration, most of the car manufacturer implemented that already. So if you buy an electric car today, when you lift the gas pedal, it's still called the gas pedal, but there's no gas. In fact, it's quite funny. When you lift the gas pedal, you really see that basically it recharges their battery, and then they have another solution which they call coasting. So, for example, if they have two motors on the car for very performance car like a Tesla or Porsche or Audi, when you're on the highway and you're basically not accelerating, you're just maintaining a certain speed. What they do is they switch off one of their engine, and they choose the one which has the right, let's say, ratio between the wheel and the motor to minimize their energy usage. So I think all those tricks, the companies are doing them already. I think the next trick is basically what they call active aerodynamics. So they basically have some elements that, like a spoiler or things like this, that come out at a certain speed to again improve the aerodynamics of the car and reduce the usage. And so they are doing everything they can to reduce the consumption, increase the range. And one of those options is solar technology. And I think a lot of OEM companies are really looking at it very actively today. So in the end, it's a whole package. It's like you gain 10 kilometers here, 20 kilometers there, and so on. So,
yeah, in my humble opinion, we should change. We are changing the paradigm of the power, how we can power the things, whether it's electricity for homes, or for industry, or for traveling, and maybe changing that paradigm. We can see also another change in the design, changing the completely design. For instance, the large cars, we can reduce them to small cars, which has lighter, I would say, much more compact, and maybe having a kind of design in order that can make having a design that can make also provide a larger surface. So these kind of things can be very interesting, and changing and thinking in a design. Today, all the people in what I see everywhere is they are thinking about powering the car, putting outside the modules, whether in the rooftop, sites, whatever. But we have to think also differently, in my opinion, in order to make that, especially this for the time being, until we will see other type of outside cells at cost effective that can allow us to charge very quick.
Yeah, I mean, we see that also at IMEC. So the project we have, this Horizon EU project, where we work with LOIC and other companies across the value chain, we work a lot more on the design of the product, because we want to come up with new solutions to put it in a body panel or the bonnet. And then you can design together. For example, LOIC and Sono Motors are working very closely together, and they are designing the car specifically for PV integration, so that you have PV basically everywhere in the car. That's one approach. And then another approach that we also looking at IMEC in another project, where we work more with a glass supplier. So in the automotive industry today, the way it works is like OEM is basically assembling parts that they order from many different suppliers, and then they goes to the factory just in time delivery, and they put the car together, the motor, the body parts, the battery, and so on. And so the glass suppliers, they have to supply a roof that fits into the car that is being designed by the OEM. And so they have limited impact on the design of the car. They just say, okay, the roof is going to be this size. Can you do a roof that moves or that doesn't move? Can you do a roof that has PV or not? And so basically that's one way to do it as well. And so there's two markets really. You have the standard automotive glass suppliers that are going to start including PV as one of the options in their portfolio. So they offer many different options. And then you have new startups and new companies that are going to do exactly what you said, start from a blank piece of paper and start thinking, okay, how should the car look if we want to put more PV in it? And they're going to design everything around that. So they're first going to say the roof has to be more flat and bigger. The body panel has to be like this. and they're going to design all the rest, the aerodynamics, even the tire dimensions, everything, to try to minimize the consumption and increase the impact of their PV. And so the best example we can give is really Sono Motor and Lightyear. These are really two startups that are really like spearheading this kind of technology development.
Maybe I can jump in right now because we've come to the end of the session and time ran very quickly, and I thought it was excellent. My name is Brian Akis, by the way. I'm with Solar United. LOIC, great discussion. Antonin, yes, very good questions. I think you're an excellent moderator. Navi, thanks for asking the questions at the end as well. So I think that pretty much wraps up today's session, and we're very grateful to have you participating today, and we want to thank you, of course, for joining us. We will have more sessions planned over the next weeks to come, so if you can follow us on social media and also on Solar United website, you'll see the upcoming list as they become available. So again, I want to thank everybody, and I don't know if you have any closing words yourself, Antonin, before we go.
Yes, thank you, Brian, for this closing word, and I would like to thank you, LOIC, for your time. I think it was very good to have all the insight of what's going on at IMEC, also in the European project highlight, and yeah, and all your know-how you can share. It was very exciting, and yeah, I'm really looking forward for the future and continuing collaboration, and yeah, changing the world, making a solar world.
And from my side, I wanted to thanks the organizer for the invitation. It was really a nice discussion, and also all the attendees for their participation. And then if you're more curious about this type of technology, then I invite everyone to go to Intersolar EU conference and exhibition in May. This is the largest exhibition. It's about 100,000 visitors or more, and there's really a lot of big halls with really the latest products, and I'm sure there will be a lot of products on VIPV on display. So if you want to learn more about it, just go to this event.
Sounds great. All right, very good. Well, thanks again, and be safe, be well, and see you guys all again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.